People often talk about freedom as the ability to live however we want. The idea sounds powerful, almost irresistible. A person makes their own rules, chooses their own direction, and answers only to themselves. No authority above them, no limits placed on their choices. But the Bible tells a very different story about freedom, a story that challenges what we usually think freedom means. And to understand that story, we have to go back to the very beginning. In the book of Genesis, God creates the world with wisdom and order. The sky, the land, the seas, the plants, and the animals all exist within a design that gives life room to grow. Nothing is without purpose. Then God creates the human, and instead of leaving the human alone, God places him in a garden, inviting him to live in relationship with him, the Creator. Human life was never meant to exist independently. It was meant to grow through trust and partnership with God. But the first humans believed a different idea. They were tempted with the thought that they could define good and evil for themselves. Freedom, they believed, could be found by stepping away from God's guidance. This choice introduced a deep tension into the human story. People gained independence, yet the world quickly filled with conflict, fear, and confusion. The search for freedom continued, but it often led people further away from peace. The book of Proverbs reflects on this struggle. In Proverbs 14:12, it says, "There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end, it leads to death." The verse points out something important about human understanding. A path can appear wise and promising from our perspective, yet without God's wisdom guiding it, the direction may slowly lead toward harm or emptiness. Throughout the Bible, God continues inviting people back into trust. He calls Abraham to leave his homeland and follow him into an unknown future. And he leads the Israelites through the wilderness, teaching them how to live as a community shaped by his wisdom. Through these stories, we begin to see how God works. When people trust God's guidance, life begins to move toward justice, peace, and restoration. But when that wisdom is rejected, disorder slowly returns. The Psalms express this trust beautifully. In Psalm 37:5, we read, "Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act." To commit your way means placing your direction, your decisions, and your hopes into God's hands. It is an act of trust, believing that God understands life more deeply than we do. The Bible later introduces a surprising idea about freedom through the words of Jesus. In John 8:36, Jesus says, "So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." Here, Jesus speaks about freedom in a deeper sense. This freedom is not about removing all limits or authority. Instead, it is about being released from the forces that quietly control human life: fear, pride, guilt, and the endless effort to prove our worth. Through Jesus, the story of freedom reaches its turning point. He lived in complete trust with God the Father, showing what human life looks like when it is fully aligned with God's wisdom. His life revealed that surrender to God is not the loss of freedom. It is the path toward a restored and whole life. After his resurrection, Jesus invites people everywhere into that same relationship with God. Through faith and through the work of God's Spirit, people begin learning again how to live in trust rather than constant self-control. And this brings us back to the question of freedom. The world often teaches that freedom grows from independence. But the Bible tells a different story. Real freedom begins when human life reconnects with the one who created it. Because the deepest freedom is not found in controlling everything. It is found in trusting the wisdom of the one who holds everything together. So what do you think? Is freedom found in controlling our own lives, or in trusting the one who created life? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring the Bible and the story behind it, consider subscribing for more.